My name is Lars Andersen, and a half year ago I made a world record where I shoot 7 arrows through a keyhole, one after another in succession. And it was an official world record, and I made a short video just to show it. But since then, a lot of archers has asked me, Lars, how is it possible for you, with your instinctively not aiming, no fixed position archery, to actually shoot 7 arrows through a keyhole consistent? So I could easily say, I just look at the target and shoot, but it's obviously much more complicated. So I asked my friend Jes, who is like me, a professional Danish archer. He made this book about archery, and it's on a Danish 3D national team. Surprisingly, and most interesting, in the middle of that coming conversation, I realized that I'm totally wrong. This will be a rather long conversation, and first of all, we have two things that's important to say in the beginning. We are both from Denmark, we talk Danish.
Og dansk er ikke skide let at forstå for danskere, eller for andre end danskere, så vi vil tale engelsk.
As Jes said, we will speak English, and this is definitely not our main language, and we are not really good at English, but we will try to speak slow.
Yeah, and we'll try to have this conversation and show things about instinctive archery. We have both been teaching a lot of people, and I teach in a more fixed form than Lars does, and we have seen a lot of people during the time.
So we will talk about what our opinion is, how different we are not agreeing. Let's look at what's really happened when I do the 7 arrows to a keyhole. And this is the side camera.
So let's see it.
How many arrows is it possible to shoot through a keyhole, one after the other? 1 arrow, 2 arrows, 3 arrows. Actually, it has 2.
It's very interesting to see.
The other video was from the front, but this is side camera.
Yeah.
That's a slow motion camera too. 6 arrows and 7. Another 7. If I should explain what I'm doing, the reason I talk is the same as why I shoot fast, because this is about my brain. It's not basically not for talking. I realized that it was better for me to talking, because the instant I start thinking about the keyhole, then I don't hit. So I realize if I talk and if I do it, it's not my purpose to do fast shooting, but I do it with as few motion as possible. And that's definitely to get my brain to be just focused, so that I shoot keyhole, 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 so I don't think.
What you're doing makes sense, because you talk and you shoot, and you talk and you shoot, and your conscious part of the brain are not able to take over and interrupt what you are doing. When we are in traditional shooting, where we have the fixed anchor point and we try to make the release smooth and so on, we have time for our conscious brain to interrupt the reflex, actually.
Even though we both do instinctive archery, we do it very different.
Yeah, and the difference is very visual. The way I do it, I have this little longbow here from Falco here. I'm sponsored from Falco, and I'm very happy for that. And I try to make my release very firm, and I get up in my anchor point here, there, and I try to hold the arrow, and when I aim, I use this gap shooting, split vision. It's have different names, but gap shooting. And I aim, and I release like this. That's the way I do it.
And I think it's very complicated.
Yeah.
Again, I have no knock point, no arrow rest, I have no fixed draw length, I have no anchor point, and for me, archery is very, very uncomplicated. I just shoot and
you hit.
But again, that is where we start talking, because Jes says to me, that's what you believe.
The thing I believe is that nobody is actually shooting instinctively. When I do speeches about archery, I have done a lot of speeches in Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Germany especially. One of my darlings is that instinctive archery doesn't exist. And people get like, whoa, I do instinctive archery. I said, no, it's not possible, because you have a sight vision, and this picture, you will always adjust your arrow into that picture of your sight picture here. But when I do these speeches, I have always said that the only one I know who does instinctive archery is Lars.
But it's not what he said to me, but yes. Yes, you believe that you shoot without anchor point and on fixed stalling, but you have done it so many times that you actually make the same motion.
So we can talk about your body memory, that your body memory has been tuned really well into this shooting.
And we start discussing it years ago, and then yesterday when we discussed we should make the video, Jes said I should do a test. So you can tell them what I heard.
Yeah, the test was that I said, Lars, you are doing exact the same movement from the exact same position each time you shoot this arrow through the keyhole. Even though that is impressing, I think it's more impressing that Lars is able to replicate, reproduce this movement.
So Jes said, can you on your slow motion video of the 7 arrows to a keyhole make a mark where you put your arrows?
Yeah,
so I've done that yesterday.
And then we can see if the arrows is in the same position.
And so let's go.
So it's really cool.
So let's go to the video, and I was more surprised than I actually think. Here comes the first arrow, and make a line, and here comes the second arrow, and it's exactly the same line. And when we come to number 3 arrows, it's the same. So even the way I shoot is not. It can't be total instinctive, because I have learned and replicated my body motion. So
and I thought about it when I'm sitting in my car, for example. It's dark, and in the cabin it's dark, and I take my key and I just place it in the keyhole for the engine, and I don't think about it. I just do it.
Instinctive archery, I will say, and I think Jes agree, that real instinctive, 100% instinctive archery is just look at the target and shoot and nothing else. Totally body memory and just the clean release and nothing else. And no aiming, no fixed precision, no learning before and not knowing the target. So only there you have 100% instinctive archery. So I will start showing you something.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's see.
Stand here. Yes, you stand here.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll show you something.
Yeah.
This is my target. And I'll move it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm a little scared.
You should not be.
Smart ass.
Yes, that's two purposes of doing it. Obviously, first of all, how many trials did I use?
1.
Yes, so obviously I show off too, but this trick shoot, I think about it yesterday when we start discussing this, and I said, I will find something that show what I believe is 100% instinctive archery. The target is moving, I run up on a wall, jump from the wall and shoot in the air and hit the ground again, and I hit. And the thinking part, there's no thinking part at all, because I stand, look at the wall and the target, and then I start running. And I can't think while I shoot. I jump up on the wall, do the shot, I look at the target, move, and then I jump down again. But there's no, in my head, I cannot do any adjustment inside. I just start mentally thinking again when I hit the ground.
Do that part, you actually, as you said, you disconnect your conscious part of the brain and you just do what you have taught your body to do.
Yes.
Now I'm a competition usher, at least a competition in the 3D competitions, and when I shoot, then I actually need to think. I need to think about distances. I need to think about my anchor point and get all these things fixed. And I think that's a great difference.
And you have the stress.
Yeah, I'm stressed, and I can see there's been a lot of scientific work about how fast our reflexes are, and it have shown that our reflex system. You know, everybody, when you drop a bottle or something and you catch it before you even think about it, if you're about to think about that movement, the bottle will be on the floor way before you will start moving your hand. So our reflex part actually moves almost exactly half a second faster than our conscious part of the brain. And I think that's what you are using. Yeah, and I think that that we now get into something where what is instinctive archery actually, because one of my darlings, and I know that you have to kill your darlings, but I won't kill this one, but one of my darlings is, as I said before, instinctive archery doesn't exist because either you have practiced so much that you know your body motions like you do, totally like a line dancer or whatever, where you go on a line and you can do things with your balance and so on, or a gymnastic person, but you know your body motions exactly, and you have to rely on that, and you believe in it.
But somehow we agree. But why I'm talking, I actually realize that I'm wrong. Now I stopped the conversation and a week has gone because in the middle of a conversation I realized that I was wrong and something that I believe in for 20 years, that I do instinctive archery, that could not be true. So I go home and think about it and read in the dictionary, and instinctive is about something that you're born with and not learn. And obviously the way I do archery, I jump up the wall and see the thing I hit. It cannot, it's so much learning, so it's basically the opposite of instinctive archery, and I basically don't believe it's possible to do instinctive archery because you always learn from the beginning something that you have learned. And your example was really good about when you are sitting in the car in the night. Obviously you don't have an instinct about putting your keyhole in the car. So you had convinced me, and I think it's, and I'd say something really good. This is the best kind of conversation where someone actually convinces you that you are wrong. Because I've learned a lot.
And I have been thinking as well about our conversation, because when I teach people, I see that they are, when they grab a bow the first time, it seems like they have some kind of familiar sensation with this bow grip, and I see that they have this extremely steep learning curve when they start archery.
Anybody feel like it's good to hold a bow?
Everybody feels like, I think I only have experienced one person who didn't think this here was familiar. But I have seen your videos about these girls that you were teaching hitting coins in the air for, what did you
2 hours.
use? 2 hours?
And this is probably why I actually believe in this instinctive archery, because I can see how fast I can learn people. So here, I'll show this video. We are now in the forest, but I can put it in. Where there's a girl who she has done archery for 2 hours. She never held a bow and arrow before, and now she jumped up in the air and hit a coin. And so obviously there is some built-in skills.
Yeah, I think that's my part of the rethinking about our conversation. That there's something that we have built in with our movements and so on, and then you start with that part and go further.
But obviously, in the start, and I really realized that in the moment you have basically shot your first arrow, then you start to correct, and in the minute you start to correct, then it's per definition not instinctive archery anymore.
Yeah, and I have seen this TV movie where these scientists they talk about that we have some kind of genetic inherent parts where that goes back for about, was it 50,000 years or something, where
because
we were able to throw spears, and as you call it, natural born long distance killers.
Yes, because Danish television was making a program about how to be best at thing, and then they actually have this brain scientist and others to talk about what's in us, and they really think about this. We have done archery for 60,000 years, and before that, we are the only of a sapiens who's able to throw a spear, and so probably it's some kind of built-in man. And I talked with a science with vision, and he said we can much better see things in motion and things standing still. So we probably have some natural skills about.
And for, I think he says in the movie as well that if we have like had bows and arrows for like
60,000 years.
60,000 years.
Yes.
Then it's enough time for doing some kind of genetics, genetic reorganization. So we actually, when we take this bow, we have some kind of ancient memory about
this.
Yes,
there is some feeling of, and I really have the feeling when I teach people this fast, that they have some feeling of something open up. So there is some. And that's probably the reason why I believe instinctive, that we have something that is instinctive, and then we can build on that.
Yeah,
but
I agree on that.
Yes,
that's my learning.
And the next thing was also that it was a reason why I think that we start using original probably instinctive aiming, because I aim from the beginning. I aim just by looking at the target, and then when people start shooting gap shooting like you.
They use it like I do here, where they use the tip of the arrow and the whole arrow length to get into the vertical sight picture, and then I use the gap that occurs when you have the your point where you want to hit and the tip, and this gap between the point you want to hit the target and the tip of the arrow. When the gap on different distances differ in length.
Show it instead.
Yeah, I can.
It's much easier to show to point of the air.
When I make a full draw here, I won't shoot the camera, but then I look at the target, but in the periphery of my vision, I see the arrow and I see this tip here, and that's the way I aim. And normally I hit quite well with that part.
And when I shoot, but I believe as institute, I just shoot, and I don't need to have it here or here or here. So I don't need them for anything. So obviously that there was this thing where people think, oh, that's instinctive, but I realize now, no, it's instinctive plus a lot of learning.
Yeah, a lot of learning, and your body skills, your muscle memory. Probably extremely good. And I have this arrow here, and this is quite a normal carbon arrow. I would like to see your arrow that you were shooting with
when I shoot to the kilo? Okay, our fun.
Yeah.
What's
Christ? I just say no fletching, nothing to straighten up the arrow.
Wrong spine too, because it had to be so small to go through the keyhole, and it couldn't have fletching because then it will stop in the keyhole.
And it's not even straight.
No.
What are you doing?
I corrected. I definitely corrected.
Yeah.
And do you want to see my bow? It was shooting with this one because I was testing on my bow. It's a Simsek bow, and I shoot it obviously on a what you will call the wrong side, and I said the right side.
Yeah, that's the wrong side here. The right side, the wrong side. But I only shot with such one here, but much larger ones.
But we want to try it. But because,
I would love to try it. I would love to try it.
How difficult is it to shoot with that kind of bow to the keyhole?
Can I try it with this arrow here?
Yes.
I would love to.
And I think, let's do a try.
Oh, you have.
I will have a target, and I will make
the perfect target.
Oh no, no! It looks like
I make a keyhole. So
Let's try.
let's try.
Let's give that a shot. I'll sit here. And how do you hold this bow? And
First of all, I put the string on. I know it's a bad arrow, so
Yeah.
So I hold it with a index finger arrow, where I put the index finger along the arrow, because then I can actually do something with the arrow and manipulate
Yeah.
the flight. So,
Yeah.
but when we talk about instinctive archery,
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time how to actually correct it, and I do a little thing with my hand too. But don't try to. And then I hold it. Don't hold it up to my head.
No,
but just look
just here,
and
yeah.
take it far back, and then you shoot.
Okay,
Okay.
let's try.
So.
So you
And then I spent a half year training or something. So you just look at the keyhole.
and this here is first time ever. So let's see. Wow, it's quite strong actually.
It's actually a bit surprised how much power there's in the little bow.
Yeah, it was
you want to-
obviously.
But you miss
like,
with such a place. Do you want to try more?
Yeah, of course. Oh, this is funny shooting with this one here.
And it's
I
very, very
didn't-
different.
I didn't break it into the. Oh, that was the wrong side. Let's see here. That was closer, but still.
But when we talk about instinct, you become closer, and
So let's see here.
you actually put it on the right side.
Yeah.
So you actually have to.
I have to practice a little with
No,
this here.
yes, you actually have to aim about here.
Yeah, I'm aiming like straight along the arrow as I used to, but this one here,
So you actually you have to aim over to the side.
Oh. I have to correct it a little. I'll try now.
Yes, and then you
I
actually
did hit
start
it
hitting.
here, like 10 centimeters from the keyhole.
But that was actually what we want to show you today.
Yeah, that was the fourth shot.
Yeah.
I got closer and closer and closer, and probably after 3,000 shots, I will be a little closer to the keyhole.